Good old 10 minutes of practice before the first race. It's gonna be fun. This video is brought to you by you. Thank you so much for simply being here and enjoying my content. Please do leave a comment, like the video, and consider subscribing if you haven't already for a chance to see your name here in a future video. Oh wow, okay. So I'm ranked first in what is presumably second and bottom split, with 10 minutes of practice on the track. Excellent! Well, it wasn't a great lap, but at least it's a clean one. 43.6. I can go so much quicker.
There's the flag. It's over.
Oh my god, it's put me in a second. That's how important it is. Okay, now I'm third. It's important, so important to just get a lap in. Like, the 42.9 of the leader, that's so achievable. But with 10 minutes of practice, it's you know, it would be a one-off lap at this point. I need more laps. So this first race is going to give me those at least. So hello everyone and welcome to another iRacing video where this round I suppose was a bit of a strange one because I never felt comfortable, but I was still trying to make the best of it in terms of championship points, given that we're only 2 rounds away from the end of the season of touring cars. So the reason that I'd only done 10 minutes of practice for this race was because my steering wheel had decided to stop working, and then the pedals stopped working when the wheel was working, so I had technical issues, but ultimately it meant I was going into this first race having to learn on the job basically. And you can sort of see, if you keep in mind sort of the lap times that I'm doing, first in the qualifying, then in this race, and then in the last race, you know, the difference and the improvement is quite substantial. But obviously you're on the back foot for the first race, and that's never great, but I do tend to treat the first race as a bit of extended practice anyway, just because of the fact that I start streaming and immediately go into a race or with not much practice, and that's just what I have to do. So yeah, I sort of, in this race, it took me a little bit of time to, you know, find my feet. I was a little bit inconsistent. I felt like in individual corners on individual laps, if I was able to put things together, I'd be able to get a good lap time, but I didn't have that consistency, and that kind of continued throughout the entire round. But this was obviously a brand new track to me as well. I know about Red Bull Ring. I've watched Formula 1 around there plenty of times, and I generally knew the layout, but I'd never raced on it, and certainly with touring cars also. So in the early stages it was just about finding my feet and kind of growing into the race, and eventually I did. You know, I obviously, as you saw, I got up into second place. I have Reese ahead of me, who was in the chat. He's, you know, one of the community members on Twitch, so it was kind of a 1-3-2-2 crew member, first and second at that point. And then about halfway through the race I started to find my feet and get my way into it, and I was able to actually catch up to him a little bit, and yeah, sort of put together a few laps that were looking a bit more promising. So I was able to do that, but I kept noticing in the bottom right on the timing system that there was one guy who kind of wasn't anywhere in the top 5 at one point, and then suddenly he was right there, and he you know, there was at one point where he's sort of 4 or 5 seconds away from the lead, and then a few laps later he's right behind us. So it became a 3-way fight for the lead, but this guy in third place seemed like he was very quick. So yeah, I'll let you guys see what happens. Guy behind's caught up quite a lot on the last lap or so. Found some pace. The top 3 has really closed in.
Right side. Keep to the left. Keep to the left. Still there. Stay on the left. Stay on the left. You're in the middle.
What the?
Clear, too wide.
You've got to be kidding me.
Right side. Clear on the right.
What a dick. I don't know how he could possibly have done that. I can't believe I'm still going, honestly, after that hit. Everything seems alright. At least Reese is still in the lead. We still got one 1322 member in the lead. I was in the lead like for a split second before I got rammed up the arse.
White flag this time. Right side. Keep to the left. Keep to the left. Stay on the left. Clear on the right. Car on your left. Keep to the right. Stay on the right. Clear.
Nice. Struggling in a straight line though. I don't know whether that's damage or the car's just quicker than me when it's in the slipstream.
Car on your left. Still there, hold your line. Clear on the left.
Trying to defend all the way on this last lap though.
You have about 5 laps of fuel left.
Well, I got the top 5 back, I suppose.
Car stops on the right.
But that was weird.
Checkered flag, checkered flag.
GG Reese took the win for the 1322 crew. Jesus Christ. I mean, he's a full second and a bit quicker. How has he got a 1000 iRating and he was over a second quicker than the next best? I had the best lap apart from him, but he was a second quicker than me. Wow, okay. Is that what they call Smurf accounts? His pace just turned on like halfway through the race. He only ended up 2/10 of a second behind Reese at the end. The less said about the second race, I think, is the better. You know, it was the open setup race, which I don't really care about, and again, I just use it for practice, but I was basically getting off tracks all over the place as I was sort of pushing the boundaries more of what was possible. I was in top split, 12th place. There wasn't an awful lot I was really going to do anyway. I was fighting over sort of last place, bar the few people who'd, you know, gone into the pits and things, and ultimately I ended up getting disqualified because I got too many incident points. So yeah, the less said about that one the better. Completely wrecking my safety rating. Let's move on to the next race. There it is. Oh bollocks, I cut the inside too much, I guess. Oh well, that was a long time coming, to be fair. I kind of got shocked a bit by him going for that so hard. I'm going to have to try to make sure I'm clean by the end of the season to keep that safety rating above 2. iRating doesn't matter. Shame that I finished last. No way that was an off track. Oh, come on. Can't get away from the off tracks today. Well, it's a lap at least. Alright, that's not bad, I'll take it.
Alright, there's checkered flag.
Didn't feel like I could push as much because I had to get that lap in. I got off tracks on both laps. Rip Miles. It seems... Oh yeah, wow, that's the grid as well. A lot of people with off tracks on both laps. So me and Reese have exchanged second and third on the grid in second split to 6th and 7th on the grid in top split. So in this final race we had another community member, Miles, who I think we've raced before in previous videos in touring cars. He'd joined for this race as well, but like you saw, he hadn't been able to set a qualifying lap, so me and Reese were back at it again, renewing the rivalry from the first race, but we also had another 1322 member further back, and ultimately we end up all together on the track for the majority of the race. But at the start of the race, you know, I was feeling... on the one hand a little bit more confident than the first race, obviously, because I felt like I was much quicker than I was in that first race, considering I'd only had 10 minutes of practice. But on the other hand, I'd just come off the back of the open setup race where I'd been disqualified from incident points, so it was kind of a mixed bag going into this final race. I managed to get a sort of a decent start and maintain my position, but Reese is just ahead of me, but he washes out a little bit on the exit of the corner here, and I'm able to get that position. So it was a good start, you know, it was kind of the start that I needed, and ultimately all I really cared about in this race was the championship points situation. My lowest 2 scoring rounds coming into this, with 2 rounds to go, were 63 and something like 44, something like that. So ultimately, because only your best 8 rounds count, and I've missed 2 rounds, I needed to better those 2 scores to better my overall total. I'll show a little bit of at the end, you know, what my points look like, but also we'll talk a lot more about it next week for the final round of the championship, and I'll give you a rundown on how the season's gone. But yeah, all I cared about for this race was basically championship points, and even though I was getting these off tracks, as you saw there, I ran a bit wide on the exit of the last corner, and in general during this race I really struggled on that last corner for some reason, which hadn't been a problem during the other races. I think I might have just been pushing it too much, but ultimately I was able to maintain that 6th place here. But I ended up I kept making mistakes, you know, and again I think it was because I was getting more confident and pushing a little bit more. But around here that leads to off tracks and penalties for that, as you can see there. Thankfully I was able to lose this penalty fairly well and not lose too much time, but I did lose the position to the guy behind me, so that put me back into 7th place, which is where I qualified. So yeah, this round it was a weird one because I just felt like I had no consistency. I think I had some pace, but especially with the nature of the track being very there's big potential for going wide, especially with understeery front wheel drive touring cars, that I was sort of not confident about being able to really push as much as I thought I could, because of the fact that, you know, I didn't want to get disqualified again like I did in the previous race. There was less of a chance of that obviously because this is a 15-minute race and the previous race was half an hour, so there's, you know, less laps that I'm doing, but still I was, you know, making mistakes like you're seeing, and I got a second penalty. So that's 2 penalties I've had. Again, I'm able to lose this penalty without losing too much time, but basically it meant that I couldn't really fight any further up the field. I felt like I was, if all things were going well, I'm probably on the same sort of pace as the guy in front of me now, and I could have fought for that 6th place, but my consistency just wasn't there. But ultimately all I cared about was getting a good result and getting good championship points. Given that we're in top split, there was a bigger chance of that. I just had to have a good race and finish well, and I was certainly happy with 7th place. So at this point I was just hoping to maintain that. Now you're about to watch my best lap, which ended up being a low 1 minute 41, which was, when you compare it to the laps that I was setting in, especially in the qualifying in the first race, but even in the first race, you know, I'm able to go a second per lap quicker just from the first race to the last race. That, you know, that's the crazy improvement that I'm able to find in these early stages. But again, just through the nature of the track, I just did not have that consistency to be able to do that every lap. If I'd been able to set these kind of lap times every lap, 6th place probably would have been quite easy, but it was just really difficult to find that consistency. And I think Miles and Reese behind me, who were, you know, our community members, were also saying the same thing. Obviously Miles had just come into it, but he has a much higher iRating than me, so he'd probably end up quicker than me, and he does pressure me very close right to the end of the race, but it was his first race after a while, so yeah, we were all suffering from the same thing basically. But it was kind of nice to be running a race where we had 3 community members, you know, 2 other guys who were watching the Twitch stream, all running, you know, 7th, 8th and 9th all together. It was kind of nice, even though it was a little bit of a high stress situation, because I needed to make sure that I scored well in this coming into the final part of the championship. So yeah, I think in the end it was a good round, you know, it was a good race, despite the fact that I've had a bit of inconsistency, and it took a bit of sort of getting back into. Obviously I missed last round as well due to illness, and I was kind of not really over it fully for this round. Having said all that, it was still, you know, a positive round where I was able to do something decent and get some decent points in the bag. It's setting me up nicely for the final round of the season at Laguna Seca next week, and hopefully I'll be able to do something good there to be able to finish off the season well. And in next week's video, obviously I'll show you what happens when we get to that, and I'll go through the season as a whole, show the championship points, how I've done, all that kind of stuff, and then we'll be taking a little break from iRacing at that point. So yeah, I'm looking forward to ending this season on a high, and thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next week for the final round of the championship. Ah, washed out on that corner almost every time. Well, 7th in a top split, leading home a
Great job. You did really well.
7th, 8th and 9th between me, Miles and Reese for 1, 3, 2, 2 members. There they are. There's the 3. Reese, Miles and me. GG's. Nice, 90 championship points. That's going to be good for me. Wow, my safety rating's gone down significantly. Holy hell. This has been a bad round for the safety rating. I've lost almost an entire point of safety rating. Just really struggled with all the off tracks and the consistency. I don't even think I'm going to be able to get that back up to above 2 before, well, in one more week. I think I might lose my B license next season. Wow, that's massive. I didn't even get a best lap credit. I had a better best lap than this guy in front. Like, that's what I'm saying. I feel like I could have stayed ahead of him, but I was just so inconsistent. But all that matters for me right now is 90 championship points. Like, my second lowest coming into this was 60, 63 or something like that. So I've bettered that. As long as I can beat that again next week at Laguna Seca, then this will be one of the rounds that counts. So that's all right.